It's very clear we have a bunch of very bright people in the room. So I'm betting you've been counting. And if you haven't been looking at the table, you know, unfortunately, we're reaching to the point where we're coming down to hear from our last honoree. I'd like to think that you'd agree with me that after listening to our alumni all night long, that there is some commonalities amongst all of us. And the message I'd say as we've heard so far and that I'd share with you is others before self. And we keep hearing that over and over. To you as a group of people that have led the way for us to be able to carry on the tradition of others before self, to me is one of the key ideals that we have at Mundelein High School and within our community. And I can't tell you how much I appreciate that from all of you this evening and be able to hear this tonight. So with that, I cannot think of a better way to end this evening but to give a big welcome to Jay Hightower from the class of 1994. Jay is currently a senior federal air marshal. He has prior experience as an FBI Joint Terrorism Task Force officer and as a sergeant in the United States Marine Corps. Jay, bring us home.
Well, first off, I'd be remiss if we didn't all stand right now. I think everybody's been sitting well. So could everybody just please stand for a second? Stretch out a little bit. And based on what I see in this room, most people are at least my age, maybe a little older, maybe a little younger. But most of us also started off school a certain way. I think in honor of those that have served, especially the very heartfelt story by Mr. Stevish losing his daughter, I'd like us to start by reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. I have a flag right here. It's small, but it'll do. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Tonight is very significant to me. With 20 years of service, I'm among exceptionally successful people, including the best of my friends and family, all who have served or have sacrificed at both of those tables. I'll preface my speech with stating that last year was the single greatest year of my life, personally and professionally. I was kind of heartfelt as to, or indecisive of which speech I would give tonight. I would either give just a professional speech or I would tell a story. I've decided to tell a story. Most kids, when they grow up, have a good life. They have a loving family and are raised the appropriate way. Unfortunately, not everybody is. Most kids don't wake up one night to a man standing in their room with a gun, having sheets put over him and his sister's head, put in a car, taken across country, physically abused, starved, and that's about all I'll say about it. At the age of 7 and 4, my sister and I were kidnapped. This is something that my family doesn't even know. We spent a lot of time in Arizona, sleeping in cars, not eating for weeks at a time. Eventually we'd make it back home and my father and the police would show up and take us. My mom had made a great mistake. At that point, our dad explained divorce to us. However, he would move out. A month later, to make things worse, I'd wake up to my sister screaming and walk into a living room that was full of blood. It was my father's blood. The man who kidnapped my dad had come back and attempted to kill my father. The man had fled before police arrived and eventually was caught. We ended up living with our dad for many years after that. I spent many years with social workers attempting to recover from all of this. Years after not seeing her, my mom returned, and missing our mother, we decided to live with her again, give her a second chance. I'd spent 6th grade rebelling due to this. I was totally against my parents being divorced. I had loved family life as I knew it until 7. Nonetheless, I'd end up having to be in a BT or BD, behavior disorder class, because I was so out of control, my behavior. Fortunately, I got out of there and I ended up in the regular classes in 8th grade. Unfortunately, I'd be introduced to drugs at the age of 11, and I would subsequently fail 8th grade. After having run-ins with the law, I knew it was time for change. I was given a chance. I was given a chance by an officer of the name of Dan Bennett of Vernon Hills. He let me become a police explorer. I also was certified as a certified lifeguard. I got certified as a lifeguard in the MHS program, which enabled me to get a great job. Senior year flew by. I had a low GPA, but I had enough credits to graduate. And that's where the story changes and it gets better. My mother-in-law, who actually worked for Mundelein Police Department, knew of my background. It wasn't good. My interest, though, in senior prom was her daughter, Kelly. So you can imagine that was a tough one to sell. Nonetheless, we did go to prom together. Little would we know that from then till today, we are still here. We ended up getting married and she sits at this table today. I didn't have any opportunities for college, so I joined the Marines. Prior to my departure for boot camp, Kelly would become pregnant. Upon reflecting on my upbringing and our age, I had mixed emotions regarding this, due to my upbringing. After boot camp, I had the honor of marching in Mundelein's Independence Day Parade. It'd be the first time I actually experienced pride. After that, I would be stationed at the Security Forces Company in Virginia, where the primary mission is anti-terrorism operations and guarding the Navy's arsenal. On January 20th, I flew home and I married Kelly, my prom date. In the spring, my wife and daughter moved to Virginia into our first apartment. As an E3, we didn't have much. My salary was about $12,000 a year. With all the cuts to the military budget at that time during the Clinton administration, we were on food stamps and we were just a family of 3. But then again, Marines are known to do the most with the least, so we survived. Additionally, I became certified by VITA and volunteered preparing income tax returns for military personnel. And I did this throughout my career in the military. In late '97, I was stationed at Camp Pendleton, California, where I served in the military as an infantryman. Towards the end of my tour, I had more downtime, which led to me being scouted by a few talent agencies. I'd eventually be in a few movies, TV shows, commercials with actors such as Freddie Prinze Jr., Paul Walker, Usher, Neve Campbell, and my favorite comedian, Jim Carrey. December 1st, 1999, I was honorably discharged from the Marines. During my tour, I attained the rank of sergeant, was a rifle and pistol expert, received numerous commendations, including a Meritorious Unit Award for an operation conducted while in security forces. Upon returning to Mundelein, I was interested in law enforcement, and I applied with numerous agencies, week after month after year. I hadn't had an offer, so in 2000, I had an offer to go to Milan from my talent agent to do some modeling. In Milan, I was represented by Ricardo Guy, followed by major models. Upon arrival, they sent me for a haircut, and this story's kind of funny, actually. An American girl and I were the only ones there getting our hair cut, so we chatted about modeling and such. I explained that I had just arrived, was out of the Marines, and so she decided to give me some advice. She asked what I was doing that evening, and I mentioned she was going to a party where many people would be. I told her I had a lot of go-sees, and I was focused on my next day and needed to be rested. As she was leaving, all dressed up, exposing her tattoos on her waist, she looked kind of familiar. She wished me good luck and departed. A few days later, she was on the front cover of Italian GQ. With her cool tattoos, it was Angelina Jolie. Little did I know. While in Milan, my most significant work was a swimsuit campaign for Libertyville Swimwear and a spring runway show for Frankie Morello. When I returned home, I got a job as a supervisory security officer. I wanted the direction again of law enforcement. Then one day 9/11 occurred. As all of us here remember, on 9/11, just as Annette mentioned, it was very heartfelt for many of us. Days later, in the headlines in the news read, FAA to hire thousands of undercover marshals. They were accepting applications for 10 days with emphasis on military and law enforcement backgrounds. It was reported that over 250,000 applications were received. I received a call. I recall at Thanksgiving, I worked and then I stopped by my closest friend's house for dinner. My dad had recently moved back to Ohio, so he called me on his phone to wish me happy Thanksgiving. We talked about how he was getting a new job and how I'd hoped to become an air marshal. About a week later, December 1st, my father was murdered. My wife and I drove to Ohio to meet with the police. There was no motive. A month had passed, still nothing. Then one night I had a dream. I never usually dreamed before, but I had a dream. And it was my father, and he told me to stop worrying about him. He told me things were going to get better in my life. I'd have a good job and a good family. The next morning, the phone rang. It was a detective from Ohio. They had arrested the person who killed my dad. It would be a year before trial. And speaking about law enforcement and the Justice Department in regards to that, as law enforcement officers, we have to do a good job. We have to get it right. Because if we don't, what ends up happening is you have a family, such as mine, where a convicted criminal, career criminal, has rap sheet, mile long, convicted numerous violent offenses against people, ends up walking free. It's probably the hardest day of my life. That same individual will go on to commit further violent crimes, and he's in and out of jail today as we speak. But still, we never had closure. When I went back to my security job, I was promoted to head of security. During the spring, I successfully assisted U.S. Secret Service with a threat directed at then President George W. Bush. Shortly thereafter, the Air Marshal Service flew me to New Jersey to take their 3-day assessment. I took a bus myself one night to Ground Zero. It was after hours, but the guard let me on the viewing deck. It was very humbling. 3 weeks later, I returned home and I got the best call of my life. The Federal Air Marshal Service offered me a job, and I would start on Father's Day. The FAM service has the highest marksmanship standards in the country. The Academy is 17 weeks. We travel covertly in teams worldwide. Our mission is to detect, deter, and defeat criminal, terrorist, and hostile activities that target our nation's transportation system. The majority of us who were hired shortly after 9/11 in 2000 2001 have backgrounds of specialized military service and or also law enforcement. We're required to maintain a top secret security clearance and be available to fly at a moment's notice worldwide. I've personally flown nearly 4 million miles and 4,000 flights. Ultimately, we are the last line of defense. During my time as a FAM, I have been an acting supervisor, mentor, and an international team leader. In 2010, I was one of the first to receive the designation Senior FAM. Shortly thereafter, I was assigned to the FBI's Joint Terrorism Task Force. I went to the FBI Terrorism Task Force school in Quantico, Virginia, including advanced interrogations of international terrorists and special instruction by Dr. Sebastian Gorka, former Deputy Assistant to the President of the United States. I was assigned to an ISIS squad shortly after that. Upon my arrival to the ISIS squad, things were getting really bad. I ended up taking on a major role with an extensive caseload and running complex undercover operations, many of which required high-level approvals. My team and I traveled the U.S. and abroad, including to the Middle East, initiating joint operations here and with foreign partners. Our tireless work has led to disruption, dismantlement, arrests, and prosecutions of many terrorist cells and their plots targeting our country and other countries, some of which you've heard about in the media in recent years. Last year, during the FBI headquarters audit of undercover investigations, my colleague and I were singled out as the best task force officers in the FBI. I have received numerous commendations and awards while serving in the FAMS and FBI from the directors of both agencies, including last year I was a nominee as Federal Marshal of the Year, FBI Director's Award for Best Counterterrorism Investigation, and my team was a finalist for the Homeland Security and FBI Team Award. Working CT and FBI has been the pinnacle of my career. Exceptional success shared with some of the greatest and most dedicated people to our country, including those born in Syria and Iraq. My daughter was on the MHS youth swimming team and was a cheerleader in high school. I embraced cheer. My wife and I spent much of our time at games and competitions. Her senior year, I took a lead parenting role and created what I like to call the Cheer Dad movement, a group of dads who embrace cheer and show extraordinary support for their daughters. I may have even colored my hair green a few times. It's been an honor of mine to assist kids with joining the military. Most recently, 1 boy and 4 girls, to include my daughter and niece. This past week, my niece swore into the Coast Guard. Both of them former cheerleaders. But my greatest accomplishment in life I realized last year. After months of training my daughter for the Coast Guard, I surprised her. I put on my Marine uniform and I presented her at her boot camp graduation ceremony. When her name was announced, I approached her and we saluted one another. It was the greatest single moment of my life. When I read the description of what a distinguished alumni was supposed to be and what we're supposed to do, I thought, do I want to give a speech just about my career or about my past? And I chose to give one about my past because there are many kids, just like myself, who are experiencing the same kind of things. And the message is, ultimately, that no matter where you're from, what you've experienced, you can succeed. There's only one word that sums it up: perseverance. If you persevere, you can accomplish absolutely anything. In closing, and in memory of my '94 alumni, as seniors graduate, and this message is more for the graduating seniors. As seniors graduate and enjoy the summer, you need to realize something now: you're not invincible. Friends and family care about you, and we know that you end up at parties. Decisions made now as young adults can affect the rest of your lives. After graduation, my class lost 3 kids to alcohol-related accidents: Lauren Chick, Kelsey McCallum, and Dan Burns, leaving their family and friends devastated. Call someone, take an Uber, but don't get into a car or let a friend get into a car with someone that's been drinking. I want to thank everybody involved that has been involved in selecting me for this. As you can see, I was probably least expected ever in my life to be standing on a stage among my valedictorian or a general of the United States. To receive such an honor is just, it's humbling and unspeakable. So I'm very grateful for this. Shukran Aki al Azizis, Kuma Asam. May God bless you, and may God bless America. Thank you.